I am in the middle, just when I was feeling like I may have been deemed unworthy to receive the craft I was promised, because 4 years had now passed. I got the craft of the 24 elders of generation unexpectedly. In generation, an encoded message is referred to as a craft, and the first skill a generate hones is uncrafting. This is a story about generation, a godly order committed to the rebirth of Nigeria for a great purpose in an ever nearer future. It's been about a decade now since I became a generate. A generate is an inductee of the core of generation. It is a tenet for inductees to be bound by the oath of silence. As a good old mystical book goes, the lips of wisdom are closed, except to the ears of understanding. So don't be bothered. This is not a confession of an initiate. This is an execution of a charge, as I have been sent by my elder generates to tell, even the secret things. Back to the craft, the 24 elders of generation sent to me. The summary of the craft I uncrafted was a charge on me that I must enter into the middle, that I must spend the rest of my days declaring the ordinance of generation. While I am happy to be a generate, I am not ignorant of the challenges, even the cost of life, but a generate must do the work of generation. Lift up your eyes and look on the fields, for they are white already to harvest. These were the exact words that ended this most divine craft I received. Now I obey and tell this story out in the open, for some will learn from it the secrets of craft, the ways of uncrafting, and the path to consecration into the core of generation. And many will learn the way to the delivery of the people called Nigeria. And many more will be willing, ready, and will indeed pay the price for the rebirth of Nigeria with joy, even they who are not prepared for induction into the core of generation. For the Lord has declared a bounty on the enemies, dragging Nigeria into corruption and injustice, wickedness and woe. The top 11 players of the enemy of Nigeria have a bounty for their ensoiling according to the position they play. The bounty is on. The craft of the 24 elders of generation. Scroll 1 translates as follows. Say unto my people of Nigeria, do not despair because of the tide the Lord your God has set Nigeria in the middle of, but move with the tide, for the Lord your God will direct the tide to take you to the place destined to you. Do not despair when the enemy of Nigeria prevails by the power of inherent evil. Do not say to yourselves, we will never be free, for the Lord God has afflicted Nigeria with the love of money and life, and the Lord has cursed us, his people, to forever be captive of the wicked, the worshippers of corruption, and prisoners of power of inherent evil and fear. For indeed, the Lord your God have made you lovers of life and made you cherish money, such that some for money risk life, for they believe with more they will live. And indeed, Lord God has caused Nigeria to be confounded to the folly of the love of life and money, and stricken by an unreasonable fear of the afterlife. But in this year of the Lord's delivery of Nigeria, this folly is turned to the wisdom of God. For in these days, a person of Nigeria will swear, saying, I may not have the courage to lay my life for the rebirth of Nigeria, but I have lived to know how Nigeria has yielded to the power of money, and I see that money causes people of Nigeria to move when honor cannot. So as for me and mine, I commit to give a part of my money to make whole the reward bounty of the Lord my God, who have now looked upon Nigeria mercifully to rid the people of their enemies. For the Lord your God has named the enemies of his people. The top 11 enemies of the people of Nigeria the Lord have named. And the Lord has declared a bounty on these enemies, keeping Nigeria a captive in corruption and injustice, wickedness and woe. For by their injustices they uphold injustices, and boast in their power to enslave the heart of Nigeria by inherent evil. But now the Lord has declared his own judgment on the top enemies of Nigeria this day. For the Lord your God have declared a bounty on the enemies, dragging Nigeria into corruption and injustice, wickedness and woe. The top 11 players of the enemy of Nigeria have a bounty for their suppression according to the position they play. And this day, the Lord God declared that a bounty is hereon placed on all enemies of Nigeria to be paid as reward to ensole all those persons confirmed to be their suppressor. 100,000 currency times the number of the suppressed enemy is to be gifted as reward to all those persons confirmed to suppress each of them. And the reward shall be due to them, even those whose job it is to nurture the enemies of Nigeria from rot, with no exception, but those who nurture these declared enemies of Nigeria at the moment of their suppressing. For even the toppest enemies of Nigeria are not worth more in the sight of the Lord God than mere thousands of currency. But to those who are willing to honor the bounty of the Lord God shall surely receive the bounty reward due to the onsoiler of these enemies, and their beneficiaries will also be rewarded for generations by generation. And the lineup of the top 11 saboteurs of Nigeria are: 1. Yakubu, son of Mahmoud, the joker for the enemies of Nigeria. 2. Any APCE delegate of the Red National Assemblage between 2019 till date, for they have not represented the people and have given wings to the oppressors of Nigeria. 3. Any APCE delegate of the Green National Assemblage between 2019 till date, for they have not represented the people and have given wings to the oppressors of Nigeria. 4. Any APCE Governor General between 2019 till date, for they block and hold ground for the enemies of Nigeria. 5. Any Justice of Court of Appeal, guilty of delivering unjust judgment, for with injustice they have been great defender of the enemies of Nigeria. 6. Any Justice of Supreme Court of Nigeria guilty of delivering unjust judgment, for they weaponize injustice in Nigeria, and they are the great protectors of the enemies of Nigeria. 7. Yensom, son of Wike, for the drunk is the arrowhead of the enemies of Nigeria. 8. Any representative of APCE led National Cabinet of Nigeria between 2019 till date, for they render support to enable the execution of the goal for the enemies of Nigeria. 9. Yusufu Margarji, son of Abichi, who heads the demonic satanic services oppressing Nigeria. 10. Bolar Tianubu, the king of the enemies of Nigeria. 11. Nasiru El Rufi, the commander-in-chief of bigot forces in Nigeria. Chapter 2. And it came to pass that after I had received the glorious craft of elder generates, and I was consecrated unto it, I received a second craft. The second craft held the secret to the wealth of the age of the water-bearer. The wealth was such that it guaranteed over 2,200 years of peace and prosperity amongst the twice the present inhabitants of the earth. And afterwards my eyes were opened to the choices before me. The one choice, to preserve the word of this craft and keep its secrets, only speaking of it to a core of generation deemed worthy unto me, and thereby I become an icon of men and a golden bull in the three realms. The second choice, to speak the word of this craft and declare its secret to all, freely teaching its meaning to those who will choose to hear and believe in its efficacy. Thereafter I ascend to be an honoree of God and a tree of life in the three realms. Soon thereafter I was called to make my choice, and my spirit was led to carefully consider how for the one I will be compelled to fully partake of the cost to all God of men, a life jealous of the imitators, be they of good faith or bad faith, furious with the disobedient, be they conscientious or unconscientious, desirous of worshippers, be they of understanding or no understanding. And then my spirit was led to carefully consider how, for the second, I will be confined to fully partake of the price paid by all honored of God, a life unperturbed by the imitators, the inhibitors, and the scornful, but remaining focused on generating belief in the way, the truth, and the light of the word of the craft in the heart of this generation. And in that moment, the wisdom the 24 elders of generation give to all generate at the beginning bore fruit in my heart. For it is the truth that the purpose of all generate is to work for the generation of the new life, the new earth promised as heaven. And so it came to pass that of the choices I chose the second, for my spirit found satisfaction being the honored of God than the worshipped of men. Chapter 3.